Hello, my name is Dr. Anne Jackson and this is my presentation on Zombification of Disability. Disclaimer. To be clear, I am not saying the disabled are zombies. I'm saying that we, able-bodied, supposedly normal people, treat people with disabilities as apart from societal norm, to be shunned, rather than as a positive one. Some of us view the other, the marginalised, socially excluded and apart from mainstream society, with an us versus them binary mentality. Why such a huge growth in the entertainment world of zombies? Is it an unconscious bias towards people with disabilities? Fear, as displayed by shows like The Walking Dead, are how we see, feel and interact at times with those amongst us classed as the other, the disabled, the homeless, the supposedly mentally ill. I am Dr. Anne Jackson. I have a PhD from York University in Critical Disability Studies with a Master's in Inclusive Design from OCAD University. I have a long career in IT accessibility. I make documentary films to reduce the us and them divide in disability. I am a Handicapped Scuba Association HSA dive master. I'm an officiant with Humanist Canada. My thesis, From the Living Dead to the Walking Dead, How Modern Zombie Culture Reflects, Challenges and Perpetuates Implicit Negative Bias towards people with disabilities. Why? Why zombies and disability? I have always been horrified yet fascinated by zombies. Watching The Walking Dead, I tried to intellectualize why they are both fascinating and repellent. They have a restless, moving, no social norms, yet a strong group mentality. Unstoppable and yet sometimes slow-moving like in a nightmare. A dragging walk akin to some manifestations of cerebral palsy. Unpleasant, unwashed. Typically physically deformed, revolting and seemingly smelly, they come in both fast and slow presentations. You don't want to go near them. A slow death if bitten, knowing what you will become after death. You don't want to catch what they have. We may also have to face a fate worse than death. They are a step in between life and death, and they are quiet until noise attracts them and wakes them, like waking young kids. Disability versus zombie. I have observed people physically avoid the homeless on the streets, avoid those with visible mental challenges, avoid people in wheelchairs, avoid people who are not magazine airbrush perfect. Our general tendency is to avoid and not to seek to have any physical contact or discourse with them, as if out of fear that their disability might be contagious, infectious, virus-based. We might catch what they have. Disabilities can be caused by infection or malnutrition, and similarly, zombiness is transmitted by contact. Dehumanization versus zombie versus disability. When faced with people with disabilities or other perceived imperfections, we are forced to evaluate our own vulnerabilities, and this could get very uncomfortable. Zombies are not immortal, but just not alive in the manner we perceive life. In transition, as arisen from the dead, they represent the step in between life and death. It is easier then to ignore and dehumanize hordes. The nameless, faceless hordes of people, all with lives and a story, so much easier to dismiss than the humanity. Comparison to original slow zombie representations. Zombies are slow-moving. People with disabilities are often slow-moving. The zombie is disfigured. Disability, often disfigured. Zombie, exploited for unpaid labour. Disability, poor and often underemployed. Zombie, we don't want to be one. Same for disability. Zombie, actively avoiding becoming bitten or infected. Disability, avoid catching disability cooties as you might catch their disability. Zombie, is being an undead zombie a worse fate than death? Disability, avoid disability at all costs as it makes you face your own mortality and frailty. A little bit of history. Zombie versus werewolf and vampires. Zombies are slow-moving and disfigured, akin to some disabilities, with the zombie shuffle, much like the walk of a typical person with cerebral palsy presentations. Other fictional creatures, such as vampires and werewolves, are fast-moving, mythical creatures of modern fiction, sexual and predatory, also based on literature, but not so the zombie. Zombies could be likened to people with disabilities who tend to be slower moving and sometimes physically disfigured as well. Unlike vampires and werewolf, it is not how powerful that they are that makes zombie frightening. It is how dismal it would be to become one yourself. Barber. Zombie to zombie. Z-O-M-B-I to the modern zombie. The original zombie tales are more religion-based, the religion of voodoo, and have an air of mystery about them, which makes them more scary and unexplainable. Like many religions, there is a great lack of control over who is a zombie and who is not in Haiti, where they are supposed to have originated from. This is controlled by religious incantations and secret holders of knowledge or medicines that are not readily understood by the layperson in the local society. First recorded incidences. Lazarus was risen from the dead, the first recorded reawakening from a dead state from the Bible, followed quickly by Jesus. Voodoo is also religious-based. Martinique and Haiti, where voodoo was supposed to have come from to create the living dead, who were created to work for no money. Haiti, voodoo, and zombies were brought to us in the book The Magic Island by Seabrook in 1929. Reality, in 1864, Article 249 in the Penal Code of Haiti states that even if the dead return to life, that's considered murder. Religion and disability. Old Testament, the disability is attributed to God, who brings it as a punishment for sin or disobedience. New Testament, Jesus is compassionate to disabilities and the marginalized in society. Lazarus and Jesus both are risen from the dead. Jehovah's Witness Bible talks about a dead army rising at Jehovah's command, and the dead are only sleeping. Modern zombie has a post-World War II survivalist mentality. The horrors of Hiroshima bring us human capabilities for violence. Television and internet images, along with constructed realities of film and later video games, show us these atrocities. George Romero made the Night of the Living Dead film in 1968 without a mention of the word zombie. Pulp fiction was sensational stories with many zombie references. Zombie overload. Games depicting zombies mean we distance ourselves from the horror. We have control over our fears. Remove ourselves from the human capability for violence. We can stop a video game, not so the horrors of the world. The modern zombie phenomenon created new word to describe something already dead, like a company no longer financially viable but still operating. Apocalyptic narratives accompany the zombie revival. Zombies versus reality. A picture of the horde from The Walking Dead, and a picture of a homeless person and another person, a rough sleeper, looking very much like a zombie. Modern zombie culture is different to the original zombie stories, mainly because it is a virus-based concept. This gives us hope that there is a cure to be found, or at least that zombies are man-made, so controllable in some way. Books have been written on avoidance strategies, such as The Zombie Survival Guide by Brooks, printed in 2003. A US military has a plan at the Pentagon for the zombie apocalypse, CONOP 8888, unclassified. Zombie stories start to take on a survivalist viewpoint. Survivalists. According to the Stanford researcher Wildegar, our modern obsession with zombies is connected with the survivalist mentality that developed after World War II. The fascination with the end of the world as we know it can be traced to the advent of nuclear war during World War II and the concentration camps. With horrendous events like Hiroshima bombing, we are faced with another unspeakable fact of the human capacity for violence, which got more public with our modern communication methods not available in earlier times. Concentration camps filled with people starving to death. We get to see awful, actual footage of the atrocities on the television and internet, and these images, once seen, can not be unseen. Our fascination for zombies could be because their decaying bodies affirm our mortality, the inherent disability of human embodiment. Dehumanization. It is much easier to dehumanize things that make us uncomfortable. For example, war refugees who try desperately to be seen as viable human beings, and we turn them into things rather than people. We are all equally complicit in the murder of others. Dahlia Schweitzer, 2018. Doesn't matter what your religion is, doesn't matter what your country is, nothing matters. We are all human beings and equally complicit. The nameless, faceless horde. Are zombies without a soul therefore still not human? Do we dehumanize others like refugees in this way also? As a society, are we scared for our future? Things are changing. Do we actually desire the apocalypse? Apocalypse. Conspiracy theories actually make us feel better, as there must be someone in charge somewhere. In the apocalypse, there is not always time for looking after anyone else, yet groups matter and are successful. Few concerned with their appearance, as if for Instagram, but worrying about survival and where our next meal is coming from. Government interference is no longer there, and there are no governments, internet, television. People with disabilities, weakness, pregnancy, illness are the first to go in the zombie movies. Do we actually want to return to a simpler time when money and stock markets were not the driving force, and we could take care of each other, talk with each other, grow food ourselves? Can we catch a disability? In fact, we can. Germophobia and other fears. Can you catch a disability virus? Mumps, polio, leprosy? Malnutrition, inadequate healthcare and poverty all cause disability. Do people believe that they can catch a disability? Is disability given by God as a punishment? We are so obsessed with cleanliness, we are making ourselves and our immune systems weak. Death. Is there life after death? We won't know. Thanatophobia, fear of death. The medical Hippocratic Oath, life at all costs. The first definition of death was a non-beating heart. Now it is a lack of brain function, hence zombies are killed by a blow to the head. Bias, how we can understand and combat illogical bias. Narrative prothesis, it has been used in some contexts to discuss the representations of disability in literature and media. It refers to the way narratives incorporate disability as a plot device or a metaphor, often reinforcing stereotypes or societal perceptions about disability. The concept underscores the idea that disabled characters are often used as a literary device rather than a fully developed individuals within a story. This form of dehumanization perpetuates the negative bias of disability. Disability as a positive trait. Stereotyping means your brain is working properly. Noticing patterns and making generalizations is normal in implicit bias. Becoming aware of our biases will allow us to understand them and modify our thoughts based on new information. Bias. Disability can be seen by people who have little contact with disability as a fate worse than death. Being turned into a zombie is considered to be a fate worse than death. Coping with this fear of death and disability has given rise to a great deal of zombie media, including television shows, films, comics, pulp fiction stories, games and books. Therefore, it may be considered valid that the zombie phenomenon can be linked to an unconscious bias towards people with disabilities. Understanding bias. When we know what the unconscious bias is, we can confront and understand it and combat the divide more effectively. Survival of the fittest. In The Walking Dead, there are quite a few depictions of disability, loss of leg, eye patch, and a lot of PTSD. A character, Connie, was introduced in Walking Dead, who was a signer and taught the tribe's sign language so that verbal communication did not alert the undead. A character, Wendell, had his wheelchair that was brilliantly adapted to fight and defend from zombies. There are many other positive representations of disability, and the characters are played by actors with their specific portrayed disability. These characters are positive aspects of disability and show how we can become stronger as a group when we are inclusive. Methods and how I conducted my research. I used critical theory, using feminist and feminist film theory, along with gender, race, and critical disability theories. I performed analysis of how disability is perceived and portrayed in modern film and television offerings today. These theories were used as they are all based in the bodily presentations. Methods used. I used a Canadian company to store my data from a survey of 100 people across the world. The survey was put on Facebook on specific groups related to preppers, horror fans, and specifically the zombie subgenre. Additionally, the survey was sent to the UK and the US to a selection of university students willing to participate. From the survey participants, I selected 5 for more depth video interviews. Results at the intersection of religion, disability and zombies. Research done at the intersection of religion, disability and zombies. With religion, the surprising result was religion was not considered important in the post-apocalyptic world. Only 5 of the 100 responses suggested it would be helpful, and 25 did identify with a religion. 25% did identify with a religion. I would like to do the survey again using only religious groups, although 25% identified with a religious group, attending a service at least once a month, but none as Satanists or Satanic Temple. Many commented on the resurrection narratives of some religious beliefs, which they suggested did not align with zombification. Overall, participants said their faith was not important. 2 said religion should make us more compassionate. 3 said the compassion was dependent upon the religious beliefs. This was surprising, as religion has become more defining, binary and prevalent, yet it did not play a big role in the post-apocalyptic scenarios. Results for disability versus zombies. We are all biased, as to be biased is to be human, and it is a survival mechanism. Zombies and some disabilities have much in common, as if they were all united and would become unstoppable herd as a force for good, as a unified force. Many beliefs are based in religion rather than culture, so the rejection of religion in the post-apocalyptic world would bring a new Enlightenment era where all are accepted as they are all manifestations of the human condition. Conclusions. Once a capitalist bites you, in other words, you've had it. You've caught the bug, and we capitalists do in fact infect others, despite our best intentions. Webb and Brainard. Community. The need for community is paramount for survival, both now and in the zombie narratives. Zombies are a unified horde and are frightening in their group thinking and drives us to survive. Religion used to offer this community, but it seems to have lost its way in many cultures and sects. Apocalypse from a different viewpoint. Learning to successfully live together would increase our chances of survival. Outliers in society have always been an early warning sign of troubles to come, such as canaries in the mines. Acceptance of all for who we are, we don't need to be fixed. Could a societal reset like the apocalypse result in a better human experience, or would we just no longer be the dominant force in nature? Apocalypse now. The word apocalypse is defined not only as a cataclysmic event, revelation or prophecy, but also where the forces of generally perceived good outcomes is victorious over the force for a generally perceived bad outcome. Community is important, and social media is not community. My research has hope that this reset of society, where the flawed human binary good and bad is still there, but with the good overcoming the bad.